Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm back. And the last time I was here, I presented um, what in hindsight feels like a pretty specific tactic in a marketing strategy. And I think I realized that um, I needed to start a little bit more pulled back and introduce everyone to some basic marketing concepts before I dive into a specific tactic. And so I'm trying to learn from that in this presentation. And so this presentation is basically has two parts. How long do I have?
An hour and a half.
An hour and a half. Okay, so this is a long time. All right.
Use it as much or as little as you
Well, I don't think I'm going to use a full hour and a half, but maybe. Depends. If you guys want to jump in, we have the time and there's enough room to interact. So I'd encourage that. How many people are online?
Right now we have 10 online.
Okay. Probably not too many people to go around the horn on, but feel free to jump in and interact. But anyway, so I think what I wanted to do, I broke this into two halves. The first half is basically just an idea that has been percolating in my mind as I've been watching shows and kind of like I've had more free time lately and been just investigating like a lot of different things. TikTok. Um, I watched this show Mad Men, which really catalyzed a lot of this first half of the presentation, and just in general, being more aware of like marketing tactics in a lot of different areas of life. And so I thought what I'd do is on the first half, kind of walk you through where my mind has been going, and with the intention of getting you to think about your own business and how you think about your business, how you message about your business, and ultimately how you market your business. And then I kind of went into this thing. I had drinks with Lynn here. She's sitting here. She's the former chair of the marketing department at Cal Poly. And I've been meeting with some Cal Poly people about Intro to Marketing, which is a class at Cal Poly. And so I was thinking about trying to kind of summarize an intro to marketing, and I quickly realized it is just too broad to really try to do that in a 1 hour or an hour and a half meeting where I'm trying to also introduce you to how to use ChatGPT for marketing. It's just too much. There's just so many things to cover in marketing. And so in an effort to simplify it, what I want you to do for today is just remember that marketing is just figuring out who your ideal customer is and what value your product brings to them. And so when I'm doing a consulting engagement with a company, the way I usually say is, okay, my life depends on you closing a deal or you selling your product to someone. And that's a lot of pressure on you. So describe to me, who do you want sitting in front of you to sell this product? What is the ideal person that you know is going to buy every time? She's going to come back and buy more. It's the person that you know, she comes into your coffee shop every morning. It's the college kid that buys from your thrift store once a week. This is what we call an ideal customer profile, ICP. So if you hear someone say ICP, they basically just mean who is the best customer you possibly have. And so sales is the act of getting in front of that particular person and convincing them to buy your product. Marketing is reaching that person at scale, finding thousands or hundreds or tens of thousands, or in some consumer product cases, millions of customers for your product. And in order to figure out who your ideal customer is, you have to understand what is their problem and how does your product uniquely solve that problem. So I want you to just take a second to think about your business and then think about who buys your product. Because if you keep that person in your mind for the rest of this presentation, it's going to make what I say much more interesting. And so what I want to do next is, oh, I already said this. Marketing is reaching, now ICP means ideal customer profile. So that's a fancy marketing way of saying the dude who buys your stuff all the time, or the lady who buys your stuff all the time. And then I want to go through these examples of marketing, because in order for you to think about, all right, I want to use AI, the most cutting edge technology that's out there, that really we're all just trying to figure out how to even use it right now. In order to use that vanguard marketing technique, I almost need you to kind of take a step back. It's actually interesting to see how marketing has progressed over the years to get us here to AI, where we're actually thinking about things in this way. And so I want to walk you through some eras just for fun. And I want you to consider the eras across 4 different axes. The channels, these are the mediums we use to reach the ICP, like your radio or your television set or your smartphone or the internet. The channels shift over time and they evolve, and the medium makes the message. So you have positioning and you have messaging, but you have to know what channel you're broadcasting on in order to get those things right, right? If you're doing a Super Bowl ad, then your positioning and messaging is going to be very different than if you're doing a Google AdWords ad. So positioning is the space a product or brand occupies in your customer's mind relative to competitors. So if you're a coffee shop, do you have styrofoam cups and styrofoam lids? Then you know we're getting like Folgers coffee, right? Or do you have somebody who's got a funky mustache and line drawing tattoos who considers himself or herself a barista? Okay, now you're getting like some really expensive, nice coffee. And so the customer is going to say, what do I want today? Do I want some gas station coffee, or do I want blue bottle high-end coffee? Where your brand sits in his or her mind is your position in the market. Then there's the message. This is how we talk about our product. This is how we understand our ideal customer. And how do we communicate to them in a way that makes them want to engage with us and buy stuff from us, which is the call to action. What do we want them to do? We want them to rent our Airbnb. We want them to buy our, what's Train Your Brain do? They do like the neurological strengthening and testing. This is a company that I'm advising with right now through the SBDC. Jim might even be on the call, who knows? But, you know, the action is what you want them to do. Okay, so now this is kind of the academic, abstract portion. Let's actually kind of look at it in terms of these eras. Okay, so the first era that I wanted to cover is this mass market era. This is like when there's not even television yet. Okay, we're in the 40s and the 50s. And it's really a radio ad, or in print, or at point of sale is where the advertising is coming and where the product positioning is coming. So it's very product focused. We're going for broad audiences because there's literally a radio. The entire country is sitting and listening to one radio show at one time. It is about as single threaded as you're ever going to get in this presentation. We want simple, memorable slogans and jingles. We really focus on functional benefits of the product. We want to build trust with our brand so that we get repeat buyers. And the call to action is like, buy it now. It's like the packaging is the advertising. You look at the package of cake mix and you say, that looks the most appealing to me because I want to bake a moist cake. And so I grab that box because the Betty Crocker looks like she knows what she's doing, and I want to make a cake, and so I need to do what she's doing. or go to your store and buy this, or whatever it is. So here are some examples. And, you know, this one example is so interesting to me. I was listening to this show and they were talking about Betty Crocker. It was a show called The Foods That Built America. It's on the History Channel. You're going to see this is a recurring thing with me. I watch a lot of History Channel. So yeah, that's it. But they were talking about Betty Crocker and these cake mixes. And this was a very innovative product at the time because a cake was actually quite difficult to bake. You had to have a lot of very specific skills. And there were a lot of housewives that had a lot of anxiety about making cakes, quite frankly. And Betty Crocker's original marketing department just was an army of letter answerers. So there was the buyers, predominantly women, of these cake mixes would write in and they would talk about their anxieties about baking a cake and their frustrations. And then the Betty Crocker company would answer these letters with letters from Betty Crocker. That's how Betty Crocker became a brand, was actually a person who wrote back to you and said, oh, you know, it's okay, don't worry about it. You know, you got to practice. And then that became market research for them because they realized, wow, like if we could make it really easy for people to make cakes, we could sell a lot of products because there's a lot of demand out here in the market for that. And so Betty Crocker became a brand from that. And then that became a show on a radio station where they would read these letters out loud and answer them live on the radio. So that's a great example of kind of how we got started with customer-driven marketing. This Firestone example is I was trying to find a good point of sale example because there's a lot of I watch this show American Pickers, which is also on the History Channel. Okay, this is a theme now. But they buy all this old advertising stuff. And a lot of it is around petrol, gas, oil, cars. You know, think about the 40s and 50s. Everyone is getting a car. It is the golden era of buying cars and being empowered to buy cars. We're starting to move into this era of consumerism away from this kind of pragmatic war era lifestyle. And so people are buying a lot of stuff and cars you have to maintain them. You have to put oil in them. And so there's a lot of great examples here of point of sale advertising that I think are really applicable to small businesses today. How do you attract the attention of someone walking down Park Street here in Paso Robles to entice them to come into your antique store? That's a point of sale motion. And then they're very regional. So because the ability to reach a broad audience is so limited to a radio station and getting a show on a radio station, which is out of the reach of most local companies, you get a lot of regional advertising and you get a lot of regional companies. There's General Mills is like a giant, what are they? They're like a food conglomerate, but you know, there was regional brands that serviced each of the regions, and then those got all rolled up into mergers and acquisitions eventually. But you know, you got to remember, there was not the ability to market globally at this point in time. Okay, so now let's go into the 60s and 70s era. Are there any questions? Is this okay so far? Anybody want to jump in here and make a comment? The 40s and 50s is pretty far back. So we're moving into modern era, 60s and 70s. If you haven't watched the show Mad Men, it's absolutely incredible. Do you have a question? Here, let's throw in the box.
Question, but due to my age, I can remember all of this.
Yeah, me too, unfortunately. But I mean, it's an interesting framing, right? Because we still use tactics from those early advertising wins, and people, you know, younger people who are trying to start businesses, should know that those tactics exist and that they're still useful.
And that era of the fifties is when those tactics were really developed, to your point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there were winners and losers in businesses, and the winners, develop the right tactics. And so we need to learn from those tactics. Okay, so let's go into the Mad Men era. This is Madison Avenue. And now what's happening is we're seeing a shift. The channels are expanding. We have television now. Television is everything. Every house is buying a television. Magazines are proliferating. Radio becomes secondary. Out of home becomes a thing, and direct mail becomes a starting thing. Okay, so now we're starting to reach more consumers more broadly. And the positioning changes. It's less product focused. It's more emotional. It's more aspirational. It is more based in lifestyle and status. Consumerism is accelerating. People are now, we have tons of disposable income. We are in the kind of golden age of American expansionism. People have money, and we're no longer buying products because of their basic functional attributes. We are now thinking about status and the emotional elements of products. And so storytelling becomes more of the message. Aspiration, humor and creativity. You start seeing a lot of humor and creativity in ads now. That's where this developed. And then we get the concept of brand loyalty occurs in this era. So I'm a lucky smoker, or I smoke Kents, or I smoke Marlboros, right? Like you become a brand advocate without even knowing it. And something about this is the example I chose in here is Kent. I've never even heard of them, but there's something about Kent cigarettes, and it's not the cigarettes. The cigarettes are all the same. The branding and the loyalty that you develop through advertising is actually what differentiates your product. There's also an element of that I want to point out. There's an example in Mad Men where a young female advertising executive gets assigned to a new account for lipstick, and it's too detailed to go into, but my point of bringing up that lipstick ad is, and this is actually, that's a fake ad. That's actually from Mad Men. But what happened was some of the stodgy older marketing guys were trying to talk about the colors that they offer. And we have the brightest variety of colors. Or we have, I don't know, some, it doesn't smudge, or like they were focused on these product messages. And what they ended up going with was a much more emotional message, which is like this mark your man concept. This color is mine. This man is mine. It's a little bit dated and kind of sexist, but that's the times that we're discussing. So it is what it is. And then this middle one, it's like, this is a more masculine kind of take on it, but I love this tagline, domesticated, not declawed. And so there's some kind of concept where if you're a man and you're working this 9-to-5 job and you're effectively domesticated, you can buy this car and connect with your inner savage, right? Like the idea that this Jaguar, which is, by the way, kind of a shitty car, right? Like it doesn't work all the time and it needs to be tuned. It's not the greatest product, but the marketing appeals to this underlying kind of psychology. And so this is the golden era of this like psychoanalytic stuff, which is really fun. And if you haven't watched the show Mad Men, it's worth a watch. I mean, it's I think the best show ever made. Okay, let's keep moving. We're at the 20-minute mark. That's actually not bad. Okay, so then the 80s come in. Now we have the beginning of a proliferation of channels, right? You've got all the cable news, and think about each of those cable news stations. they each appeal to a different type of person. You want to reach young white males? Go advertise on ESPN. You want to reach college educated professionals? CNN's your avenue, right? So now we're starting to see the what's the word I'm looking? Fragmentation of the channels. Radio becomes syndicated. You have like Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern. They are national radio shows. So when you advertise on radio in the morning on Howard Stern, you're reaching the entire country, not just LA or San Francisco. Billboards, sponsorships start to come in. So this is where you start to see, like you see Michael Jordan, who's a famous basketball player in the background. We start to see the merging of sponsoring these personalities. So the merging of identity with brand. The message becomes high production commercials, things like a Super Bowl ad, cool factor like the Nike Just Do It campaign, bold. Again, we're getting very aspirational, but the aspiration is coming in the form of these celebrities and athletes, these cults of personality. So just a couple of examples here. Nike is a brand that is still really popular. My kids love Nike. They wear that brand, although it's, I think, diminishing in the current iteration. You also start to see things like competitive challenges, right? So, sugar water is sugar water. Coke and Pepsi, whether you want to believe it or not, are the same thing. And so how do we differentiate between the two? And there was this thing called the Pepsi Challenge, which was really fun and interesting. And people would be like, I've been a Coke drinker all my life. And then they would drink and they'd say, oh, that one's much better. And then they'd go, oh, you chose Pepsi, huh? So that was kind of fun. And then there was this, the Super Bowl ad. So this is like the idea of like, almost like an ad becoming almost like a movie. And this one for Apple, where, it was like this 1984 kind of dystopian sci-fi thing, and this woman comes in and she's dressed all colorfully and she destroys the Borg, and it was like a very competitive ad. It kind of went at Microsoft. It said, we are a different kind of computer company. And this continued on for years with Apple, and they built one of the most loyal brands you can get. Okay. Then now we're moving towards something that's more relevant to what we're going to discuss in the second half of this presentation, which is the AI thing. And this is the 90s. So this is still pretty pre-internet. We've got email addresses. We see websites starting to develop. Businesses are building websites, but we don't really have Google quite yet, where that proliferation is really happening. But we're starting to develop our own individual personas, and we're starting to be able to be marketed directly to. So this is the beginning of a real direct relationship that a business can have with a consumer. And we start seeing customer loyalty programs, personalized marketing, like, dear Matt, we want you to be a premier member of our History Channel subscription. We know you watch it a lot, right? So we start seeing this is where this AI thing, you're really going to be able to take advantage of it. The seeds were sown in the 90s. And we're starting to see more value-based messaging because we're getting more specific. And so you can't be broad. We can't just do a jingle. We need something that speaks directly to that consumer and that their particular needs. So go back to my first slide that I presented to you. Now we're starting to see when that takes hold. Okay, here's some examples. There's this whole thing occurring with airlines where, we're really starting to reward and treat the best customers like royalty through these loyalty programs. And the customers are getting status out of that, right? Like, oh, I get to go to the front of the line. Oh, I get to go to the exclusive area in the airport for people like me, people who are high status. And the brands are anointing that status. Let's not forget, right? It's all a big game. It's kind of silly, but it works. The personalization. So this is the mail. You've got mail, right? Like we know that. Most of us do. Some of us don't. There was a time when we didn't even have email. You had to teach people to go look at their inbox. And, it's interesting, the iconography here, right? It's like connecting, oh, your old mailbox where you got all this mail in it? Okay, this is a new mailbox, but it's like that old mailbox, that little flag that goes up because the postman has come by and dropped the mail off. That flag went up digitally when we started to train people to check their inbox every day. And then there's like this authenticity thing with a company that's no longer around, but if you were alive or growing up in the 90s, you know what Saturn is. It's a different kind of car company, right? And so there was this authenticity that started to emerge where a small brand could punch above its weight and compete with the Fords, Toyotas, the big brands of the world by really connecting in this more personal layer. So we started to see even something as impenetrable seeming in the 60s and the 50s, like creating a new car company, start to happen. This also happened with Fox and in network television. You didn't think you had ABC, NBC, CBS. It was dominated by those three brands. And then this upstart came in because it was doing something different. Okay. 2000s, now we're in full-blown digital marketing. Google emerges. We're doing search engine marketing. We're doing email marketing. And we're doing personalization effectively at scale. And we're direct responding. We are building a relationship with our customers. Okay. Limited offers. We start seeing reviews and testimonials because now people are becoming publishers of their own content. We don't need to be interviewed by Time Magazine to have an opinion about something. We can write something on our blog. And so brands are starting to lose control of the message. Your customer actually can have a point of view about your product, and that can help your brand, but it can also hurt your brand. Oh, sorry, I do that in social. Sorry, I should have practiced this a little bit more. This is the help your brand examples, right? So Yelp, you can't have a restaurant anywhere in the country if you don't have great Yelp reviews, right? So the customer voice as an advocate for your brand starts to emerge here. This goes crazy in the influencer era, right? All of a sudden, you have no control over your brand. Influencers have all the control. And so, you see an even deeper shift here, but it starts in this 2000s Google. And then you also can have something small can get big. So this is another great lesson for our small businesses here on the line, right? Like Zappos is a tiny little shoe retailer in Vegas, but because they unlock the global or countrywide access that the internet provides, when somebody goes online to find shoes, they find Zappos, and you see Zappos just emerge as a major retailer without any stores. So that's the first time that that kind of thing starts happening is here. And I just remember this one example where this boot retailer in Austin that makes the best boots in the country, apparently, just started to go crazy. And I tried to go into the Wayback Machine and get the actual ads, but there was just this really interesting example where this small business in Austin that made a super high quality product became really big and it wasn't because they were sophisticated marketers. It was because they made an awesome product. They had an online presence and people found them. And that is a big shift in this era. But you can see now what I'm building towards, right? Like we're building towards learning lessons that you can use in your small business today to unlock these advances. And my point is like Zappos, I don't think that they set out with world domination in mind. They just did a great job and they were in the right spots. Now we see social, okay? So this is now much more, this is basically the current era, okay? We have social media. Now all of a sudden we have smartphones are the big kind of advancement in this era, right? Like not only like this, so when we go back to the 50s and 40s, I was in San Francisco and there's KNBR is the local radio station in San Francisco, and its station is located right next to the Chronicle building, which is where the newspaper is. And I was just on a lunch break, and I went into KNBR to just kind of take a look around, and they had all these old pictures on the wall, and the KNBR, it was one studio with one microphone sitting in it and a chair. And so if you think about that, like one person gets to talk at a time. Or even in the era of when television proliferates, ABC, NBC, CBS, Peter Jennings, Lester Holt, like you get one person gets to decide what everyone gets to see and hear. And now every single person can create their own television station. You can just put this on, excuse me, sorry, I dropped it. You can put this on a tripod, you can record yourself, you can upload it to YouTube. I can record an interview between you and I can make my own podcast. My own radio, we're our own radio station, we're our own television production. Everyone is empowered to have a point of view. And then social media is the broadcasting. However many followers you have, and TikTok makes it even more crazy because if your content is good, the algorithm will actually reward your content and broadcast it to more people. So you don't even need to curate followers anymore. If the content is worthy, the algorithm will serve it. And so we just see a massive proliferation of individual content. And brands are struggling to find a voice in a world where everyone has a voice. A brand voice is extremely difficult to develop because it lacks authenticity. People know they're being marketed to. And so we're in a really interesting position as business owners because it's kind of hard to find. I mean, in some ways, it's hard to navigate. But if you do the right things, it's actually a better time than ever to reach your ideal customer profile, your high value customer. If you know who that person is, you can find them because everything is knowable, everyone is knowable. Okay, so examples from this. My favorite one early on in the social revolution is called United Breaks Guitars. And this actually catalyzed an acquisition that I worked on at Salesforce, where we bought a social media monitoring company called Radian6. And the reason we did that was because this guy who was like a really talented musician, United broke his guitar when he went on a trip. And then he made a video and a song called United Breaks Guitars, and it went viral and it went everywhere. And United's stock price dropped 10%. So this guy's United Breaks Guitars video cost United tens of millions of dollars in market cap. And there was a major realization among people like me who were in the customer business. I worked at Salesforce at the time that, holy shit, your brand can take a major hit if you do something wrong and a customer decides that they're unhappy with your service. This can be catastrophic. We need to monitor social media for brand mentions so that we know what people are saying about us. And then that obviously gave way to these influencers. And I think brands like Alo Yoga have done a great job in the influencer era, although, like I said, with TikTok, influencers are becoming less important. And then you have these things, harnessing fans and advocates really becomes the game. And my old boss at Salesforce, this woman, Christina Jones, she goes by Christina Mancini now. She worked at Universal, and is it Universal that got bought by, I can't remember. She was down in LA. but she's a pretty famous in the marketing world. And the thing that she unlocked was this idea of like, she was working, who did Marvel and the comic book pictures before? It hasn't always been Universal. It was Fox. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They were trying to figure out, like, they wanted to have Iron Man, and then they had Iron Man as a huge hit movie, and then they wanted to do Iron Man 2, but it took like 2 years between the two movies. And they had this massive, ravenous fan base for Iron Man. But then they had to reinvigorate that fan base for the new release after kind of a 2 years of basically no Iron Man. And so what she unlocked was, how do we make Iron Man have a cameo in the Ant-Man movie and then activate the Iron Man fans to talk about Iron Man in Ant-Man? And we get Iron Man fans are still engaging with our brand, and they're promoting Ant-Man, and they're more ready when the new Iron Man movie comes out. So this constant engagement of fans and fanatics, and then harnessing them from a marketing perspective, is something that gets unlocked here. And my friend Christina did it. She's amazing. Okay, I'm going to stop. And then we're going to talk about AI. It's never a good sign when there's nobody talking but me. Maybe I'm just have everybody's attention. Can somebody just say something online to acknowledge that we're still there? Are we on mute?
I'll say something about your brand authenticity, just because we had
online saying we are here.
Okay, good.
we had Haley Pavoni yesterday from Passion Footwear. We did coffee and conversations with her. And
Yeah,
she's
how'd that
become
go?
great. She's become, a social media star in her
Mhm.
own right.
Mhm.
And as the founder, she's very authentic with what she puts out there, and it's just driven a lot of business to her brand and sales. And um and she one time said, "Oh, I want to be in retail stores," and she tagged Nordstrom, and then all her loyal customers started tagging Nordstrom, and she is now in Nordstrom online. And so they started with one shoe, and she has five. So she created that authentic online brand following and really was able to develop that over the last 2 years, and sales have basically doubled since then. So it's really interesting how you can, if you have that authenticity and brand loyalty, what you can do with it.
I would bet that if you asked her to describe, if I asked her, my life depends on you selling a pair of shoes, tell me who is buying it, I'd imagine that she would know who that person is in graphic detail.
Oh, she does. She has drilled down on her customer data. She knows the age range, the types, where they live, everything about her ideal customer.
Right.
She has one woman that she described yesterday who bought their first pair of shoes earlier in 2024 and spent over $20,000 on shoes in 1 year, and has a whole room of passions and accessories.
Passion's the name of the shoe.
Passion footwear, yeah. And they're convertible heels. You can take the heel off, make them flat. She sells different heels. You can interchange the heels and
Yeah.
accessories. And she's just,
How many
Yeah.
new customers do you think that woman has gotten for the brand?
I'm sure tons.
Probably hundreds of
referrals. They have
thousands.
a referral program and everything. It's been an amazing. So we talked a lot about her brand and her influence in the marketing, and it was good for the. There was a few of the incubator teams there yesterday listening, and she's a former incubator team as well.
And we do have a couple questions online. Well, first of all, we have a lot of folks chiming in saying going great context. Excited to hear about AI. And then somebody else said, I've been seeing as well people doing cryptic posting with links or locations, and because people want to feel like they're finding an underground business or artist. So I guess kind of more guerrilla type marketing.
Can that person come on the line and describe what demo are you and where are you seeing that?
Sure, yeah. Juliet, I'm going to go ahead and give you access to use your microphone. So if you're comfortable with doing that, you should be able to do so now.
Hello, my name is Juliet. I'm based in like the Oakhurst area, and honestly, I do like social media marketing, and I would honestly, I'm seeing it for myself, which is I would post like events all the time in my area, and I would get maybe 10, 12 people, but now I've been hand making cards for certain events. And now, just because I'm going out there and making these cards that are physical, I'm getting 30, 40 people coming to these events. And I'm not just seeing this for myself, but I'm like going on TikTok and seeing that, even with things like recently, there was like a Barnes and Noble guy that was just selling his book. And just because someone videotaped him, and like saying how sad they were that he wasn't getting any book signings. Like, I think there was like 200 people that showed up within an hour of that because they wanted to support someone who wasn't big, who wasn't doing huge things. And I think there is that kind of guerrilla marketing, but I don't know how AI would go into that because I think it's kind of like an anti-AI thing. I think people want to support people, so I don't know how to where that might come up into this conversation, I guess.
I love it. It is so good. Thank you for that contribution. And I really see this happening, right? So I don't think that, so we'll talk about AI, but I think what you're describing, and if you can stay on the line, I'd love to hear what you think. But I think what you're describing is the backlash to this last 15 years of era. And people who are chronically online are totally uncool. And I see it with adults, people my age. I can tell when someone spends too much time on Twitter scrolling through political BS. You can feel it. They're just lame. And I think kids are feeling this. Real life experiences are replacing online experiences. And what you're describing is a shift in status. Now, high status people, the cool kids, as we used to refer to them, are not online. They're reading a book at a coffee shop, and they're not feeling the need to post about it. And so I think what you're describing is the beginning of a shift away from this and a new era. But how does AI interplay with that, right? Because really, if you're following the logic of my presentation, then AI just plunges us deeper into the abyss. But I don't know if that's necessarily true because the way I'm going to show you how to use AI is actually way more focused on understanding your customer. And so, can you remind me the name of the woman you were describing with the the shoes?
Haley Pavoni.
Haley Pavoni is not, I would imagine, I'm going to, interpret that there is a huge component of her strategy that is interacting with her customers, probably in spaces, places, knowing who they are. And so that doesn't change. Throughout all of those eras and this new era, I'm basically putting forth I'm pretty open-minded about just about anything, but the hill I will die on for this particular presentation is in slide 1. So let's just go back there before we jump into the AI thing. That the customer is at the heart of any marketing strategy. And the more you know who your ideal customer is and what value your product brings to them, the more successful you're going to be. Our example of our super successful shoe salesman, she knows her customer better 100% of the way. Okay, so now how does this apply to AI? I have a point of view about it. What was the name of the woman who jumped on?
Juliet.
Juliet. I have a point of view about it. We'll see what happens. You know more than I do. You sound pretty young. This is really your game to play. I'm old. My time has passed. So I'm just a guy trying to show some new business people what I think might be how to unlock this new phase that we're in. And what I discovered in my world of marketers is that there's this kind of cool methodology that I thought I would introduce to you that is called FIND method for creating prompts. And so, yeah.
And then is this also going to be applicable to B2B
Yes.
businesses as well?
I think this is more applicable to B2B, honestly,
Okay.
but it can be applicable to either. The example that I created is a consumer example because I felt like last time I did this, all the people who attended it were small businesses, which tend to be consumer facing. But this absolutely works for B2B. My background is in B2B, and I would be happy to help anybody adapt this approach to B2B. In fact, I'm going to show you an example of a mega prompt. It's 42 pages long that I'm actually writing right now for my current client. So I'm going to push you to the opening of the rabbit hole, but promise you, you can go as deep as you want. So a couple things about marketing prompts and ChatGPT, and I don't know what the sophistication level is for the average attendee here, but I'm going to assume that you've used and fooled around with ChatGPT to do something for you at some point. You put a prompt in it, like, write me a press release, or, like, here's my website, write a blog post about shoes. I don't know, right? So, like, I'm assuming that you've at least opened up ChatGPT and messed around with it, and you know what a prompt is. And if you don't, it's okay. I'm going to show you some really simple examples, and you'll walk out of here with something to do. But the key is to try it. You'll be amazed. Just ask it whatever questions in your head. Don't worry about making it Poe and Gemini. Okay, it's all the same. I mean, there's subtle differences between each of them, Myra, but they're basically the same. It's like the cigarettes thing, right? Like, it's a branding exercise. So just try it. And the way I think about ChatGPT is it's the world's smartest 12-year-old. It's a 12-year-old with 130 IQ. You have a person in your pocket with 130 IQ. You can ask it, and it knows everything that's available in terms of human knowledge. It knows how physics work. It knows every company. It knows every website. It has consumed all of the available information in the world today, and it's pretty smart. But it's 12. It doesn't understand the context of everything. And so it's really important that you give it the right parameters to harness all that intelligence and knowledge. And the way you do that is through this FIND method. This is a way to get you started. Focus on the objective and the audience. Who is my ideal customer, and what do I want them to do? Investigate. So what are the context and insights that can help ChatGPT better understand my ideal customer? What age range are they? Where do they live? Are they men? Are they women? There are demographic realities to your buyers that you need to understand. And Lynn and I deal with this all the time with the AngelCon pitchers, right? Like, who is your target market? Anybody. The worst answer on the planet. Anybody is not a good enough answer. And in the current iteration that we're in today, you cannot be selling to anybody. You need to be selling to someone specific. If you don't understand that, then you're not going to be successful, in my opinion. Then, so focus and investigate are the warm-up for your 12-year-old to help her understand who you are and what you're trying to do. And then she can build an extremely compelling narration, a persuasive message, and ultimately tailor that message to the delivery format and tone, your channels. Okay, so if I had more time to work on this presentation, I would have mapped these things directly to all the categories I put in the first half, but they map loosely and you can kind of see how they map to what I was talking about earlier. All right, so let's do it.
Can you go back to that slide one more?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
This is going to be available, and I'm going to put some links to Madison before you send it. I've got some follows on TikTok that I think are relevant, blah, 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 blah. There's a Substack that I got a lot of this from that I want to make sure I cite properly. Okay, so now we're going to start thinking. So put your thinking caps on. I gave everybody, or Madison gave everybody a prompt worksheet, right? Okay, so pull your worksheet out and let's start thinking. What is your marketing goal? Who is the target audience and what are the desired outcome? What is your tone, style? Is it conversational? Is it peppy? Are you a marketing consultant? Is it smart? I want it to sound like a Harvard MBA wrote this, or I want it to sound like a 12-year-old teenage girl wrote this. Get specific. Also, let's talk about relevant context. So if you're a B2B, what industry are you in? I sell to municipalities, a traffic monitoring solution. My buyer is the city manager or the whatever dude who controls the traffic. I don't know. What are their pain points? Car accidents, right? Like you know your customer, you know why your product is valuable to them. Describe it to your 12-year-old. Help them understand. Do you have competitors? Who are they? I'm opening a thrift stop. My main competitor is Goodwill. It will look up Goodwill and it will understand what Goodwill does, and then it will make a determination about your relative value to Goodwill. It will do that for you. So be the guide, not the river. You do not need to do the research anymore, but you do need to guide your researcher, your 12-year-old, into the right direction. And the more context you give her or him, whatever, the better the outcome is going to be. And if you want to put specific sources in there, go for it. Like if there is a website with demographic information on it that is relevant to your ideal customer, pump it in there. So the prompt I'm going to show you is very simple, but the prompt I'm building for my client is 46 pages long. So I'm trying to give you a place to start, but also try to impress upon you that it's honestly limitless, but not so limitless that you need to create parameters for it, right? This is the thing that we're trying to do, okay? So then now you need these two things in your prompt in order to get good third thing, which is copy, basically. And copy that highlights your unique value. And this is where ChatGPT is amazing because it will find value propositions that maybe you hadn't considered. So I was looking at this example, this ice company, and they input an insane prompt into ChatGPT to identify they have high-end ice. They basically, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's like ice, it's perfectly clear. And it's like they're selling water. They need marketing, right? And so but the ChatGPT prompt pulled back and said, oh, you need to go be in Vegas because your ICP, the highest concentration of buyers for your product is in Las Vegas. And then it developed this huge, and it was specific to that market. Here are the influencers for restaurants in that market, right? So it got super specific, and maybe that ice manufacturer hadn't thought of Vegas and certainly doesn't, they're in Austin. So what the hell do they know about Vegas? ChatGPT gave them everything they needed to know to enter that Vegas market, or at least start to think about it. So it's going to come up with ideas that maybe you haven't even thought of before. And so if you know your customer, like our friend Haley, then ChatGPT is going to make Haley infinitely more smart. It's going to give her ideas that she might not have thought about Paris, but maybe she needs to, because based on what you told me, I think you'd really fit in Paris. Okay. And then there's delivery. So what do we want it to do? Do you want it to build a flyer for farmer's market? Do you want it to build a sign for a billboard? Do you want it to build a, what do you call those things on Instagram? They're the little words that go under the post.
Caption.
Caption for Instagram, thank you. A landing page for your website. What do you want? A press release? It will build anything. So again, it's infinitely capable, but it's a 12-year-old. It doesn't know what to do. You have to tell it what you want. Okay, so let's do it. All right, so this find prompt is what I gave you. I actually enhanced it a little bit because I was playing around with it, but I want to just kind of like do this. And so let's open a thrift shop in downtown Slow. My kids love thrift shops. They're always going to thrift shops. They go to LA to go to a thrift shop. They are constantly involved in this. How do I get in there? How do I get to the text?
Oh, it might be like the layers thing.
Yeah, no.
There you go.
Okay. So this is an example prompt that I wrote. Actually, ChatGPT wrote for me confidentially. But let's just take a read.
Sure, I understand it correctly. So to put together one, you asked AI to do it for you.
Well, I said, so
That's okay. I think that's neat.
no, it's just, well, so it's actually a great point. So the point of the room was you actually used AI to do it for you, which is true. But the prompt I used to get AI to do it was, I'm teaching a class about marketing prompts for AI. It's small businesses in the San Luis Obispo County area. They might not know anything about ChatGPT. I'm using the find methodology, which is on the Cannonball Substack. I had already established that it knew what find was. I said, and what I want to do is give them an example of a prompt as they write their prompt so that I can run it live in the class. And I was thinking about maybe opening like we could use opening a thrift shop as a thrift shop in downtown San Luis Obispo as an example. Can you write me that prompt, please? So I'm just making the point that I set all the context for this specific use case.
I think it's,
Yeah,
you gave me some insight into, I would have tried to have written that myself.
Yeah.
In this class. And
Why do it?
Why do it? Let AI do that for you. I'm sorry.
it's it's such a great, I mean, this is your light bulb moment.
Yeah.
When you realize how to use this thing. It requires creative input. It can be in real life. You could say, to the point that I forgot her name already, I'm sorry.
Juliet.
That Juliet made earlier, maybe we're doing guerrilla marketing tactics and I want to, make a physical card to hand out. But what my point is that what you put on that card can be influenced by the vast amount of research and insight that AI can bring you. It's just making you as a creative entity smarter and having to do less of the rigorous research, academic type, hands-on keyboard work. Just come up with the ideas and let it do the work for you. It's like having an employee. Sorry.
Julia said earlier, and at the time it was hard to hear her.
Yeah.
And so I may have heard her incorrectly, but I thought she said that AI didn't really help help guerrilla marketing. And she didn't say that, my apologies, that's what I heard. But my thought is it's the opposite. I see AI helping you create your guerrilla marketing and helping you do that with your rifle instead of your shotgun.
I totally agree. Julia, I don't know if you want to jump back in here, but I think in the guerrilla marketing example, the ice company example rings true to me because the ice company, ChatGPT said, you need to be in Vegas. Your ICP is everywhere in Vegas. And so that would give me a target to run some guerrilla marketing tactics in a target rich environment. But Julia, what do you think so far? We're going to do this in a second, but is this at least surprising you a little bit in terms of?
I mean, I think there's, for me, I think there's like some of it AI can definitely, help with. But I think, like you said, AI is definitely like a really smart 12-year-old. And so, even though like some demographics can definitely help if you're like in LA or something like that. But I live in an unincorporated town, like, in Oakhurst, in like near Yosemite.
Mhm.
And I would say a lot of like if I did not live here and I did not personally experience my life here and what lacks here, I would never know that, and neither would AI. So I think there's like a weird balance into like knowing what AI can help you with, and like that's why we're all small business owners. It's like if AI could have thought about it, and gone out there, but it's like us who's like putting in the work every day to make our business grow and know the needs and wants. And I think AI sometimes can do that really well, but for like places that don't have high demographics, or if your niche is very, very small, I think AI has a really hard time understanding that.
I love it. I think you're right. But one thing I would um, encourage you to think about is, yes, Oakhurst, which I love that place, by the way, so beautiful, uh, is totally unique in that regard, the way you just described. But there are a lot of Oakhurst-like cities all around the country. And so what I would encourage you to do is say, would my product work in Oakhurst of Oregon? I don't know. But maybe expansion is not the ideal thing, and it might not be that useful for you. I think this let's take a look at this prompt, because I do think this prompt in some regards is reasonably similar to potentially what you might be trying to accomplish with your business in a small town, because San Luis Obispo isn't exactly a thriving metropolis. I mean, we're not in LA. And so this one is help creating a short Facebook post, which is pretty localized, right? And announcing the opening of a new thrift shop. And the second paragraph here is your context or investigate prompt. Curated thrift shop offering affordable, stylish secondhand clothes. We are all about sustainability, right? So that's an important detail that you'd want to mention. Find great stuff at great prices. Our customers love unique fashion. They love good deals. They love local businesses. Our vibe is welcoming and fun. So that's giving it some input about tone. I want it to be friendly and upbeat. Please write as a Facebook post. Come celebrate with us Business Week. Okay, so that's the prompt. We're going to copy it. We're going to jump over into, okay, now I need to put my old man glasses on. We're going to jump over into here. Okay, and I even warmed it up by telling it, hey, I'm about to present the prompt to the small business people. I'm going to be interacting with you. Absolutely, I'm ready to go. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So think of it like a little tiny human in your hand. Okay, so then I put the prompt in there. And what does it do? It's thinking. Okay. So now it generated precisely what I asked for. And I can take this and I can use it directly. Usually I just use whatever it pumps out because it's always been so damn good. But I can adjust it. It gives me some hashtags. It gives me some graphics. Not too bad. And look, it even says, want me to generate a few variations to show your class how different tones or CTAs affect the message? That sounds fun. Let's do it. So now it's saying, what would you like better? This is a more playful version. And I'm not saying that you should have ChatGPT write all your Facebook posts, because if you're a small business, it probably values your own voice. But this is useful for ideas. So it gives like a more heartfelt, emotional, kind of local vibe. Here's a more direct version. So then now we're starting to get into a marketing strategy, right? Because I had it do a tactic for Facebook, but now I can see, well, what other channels do I want to activate on? Maybe I want to do an Instagram caption. Maybe I want to do some email marketing. So it decided to take the playful variation. I could have told it to do the more heartfelt one if I liked that one better. But it knows that I'm just trying to show you guys examples. I'm not actually doing a real email campaign. But here's an Instagram caption, kind of fun. Treasure chest Nate is officially open. It's full of vintage gem, stylish secondhand finds, and feel-good vibes. Whether you're into thrifted fashion or just love the thrill of the hunt, we've got treasures waiting for you. That's pretty good. It's not bad.
I like it.
Okay, and then look, now here's something you load into your email. Maybe you have email, an email list that you got and you want to send it to that, or a text message, or maybe I'm going to build a Google business profile so that I show up on maps correctly when people are searching for thrift shops in slow. I want it to be on there. So yes, keep going. So now it's going to build me a text message. So maybe I have a distro on text, or maybe my call to action in the store is, hey, sign up for our mailing list. Write down your email address, or we have texting. And now I'm building a textable group of people, and I can have this thing and I can have it generate, I'm just going to riff here. I want to do a weekly text. Maybe I want to do a little campaign where I hit people once a week with a text message about my thrift shop. And I want ChatGPT to just create 4 text messages for me. Week 1, week 2. I mean, you could pay a marketing consultant $1,000 to do this, and you'd be wasting your money. Oh, wait, I'm a marketing consultant. Doesn't matter. Okay. So you get the idea. How about a press release? What if I want to go see if I can get Dave Hovde to mention my business on the KSBY News? Yeah, so then it said, it's always kind of prompting you. Hey, would you like me to build out a quarterly calendar for your marketing programs? Yeah, that sounds great. How about How about an idea for a news story on KSBY? Here's a news story angle that would resonate with your local audience and feel time and human. So this is really interesting. I'll tell you a quick story. I am currently auditioning to be a professor, temporary professor, is that what you call it? Adjunct professor at Cal Poly. And I had this idea that I presented to you guys today, and I wanted to create a course proposal out of it, but I didn't even know what a course proposal was. So I said, what do adjunct professors do if they want to become a professor at, I'm trying to get a job at this Cal Poly. What do I do? Do I make a syllabus? And it's like, actually, I think you're talking about a course proposal. I can help you build that. And so I'm like, okay, here's my idea. And I literally just talked into ChatGPT for like 10 minutes. I just dumped every bit of my idea and it just created a course proposal. And then it started asking me questions. How will you grade the students? Cal Poly likes hands-on projects. What will be your hands-on project? Like it prompted me to fill out the missing pieces of my idea. So you might not know how to pitch your local news team on your small business, but this just created a version of your messaging that would be interesting to a news anchor. Okay, well, I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions because I've only got 15 minutes left and there's a million other directions I can take this, but this should be enough to get you started. Sorry about all the previous 30 days things. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. This is like your search history. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say was as you get more sophisticated, so this is a prompt that I'm building with my colleague for this new client I have. And it is really in depth. So there's demographic information, there's age. We're mapping this to a marketing methodology, Jeffrey Moore's market maturation model. This thing's, I don't know how many pages it is. It's a lot. I think it's like 40 something pages. And when we run this one, we will run it against ChatGPT 4.5. So the different models are better, do good for different things. And if you want to do deep research, like a big deep prompt, then you put it into 4.5 and it will, that prompt could take, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes to run.
Is 4.5 only available to paid
Yeah, this
users?
is all paid. I don't know what's available to paid and what's not, but I'm paid. It's $20 a month. And I would pay, this actually used to be $200 a month. And now it's only $20 a month. And you get 10 deep research prompts a month.
I only asked that because I also pay. And I know I just got offered 4.5 as an upgrade in the latest update.
Yeah, but it's in the latest update, it took it from $200 a seat to 20. So you're getting access to basically a PhD researcher for $20 a month. It's a pretty good deal. Okay, stop. I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions. And then if there's not, I have a couple more things I can do that are fun.
Just a question along what we're talking about. I paid the $20 a month. I'm not for sure if it's the 4 or 5 or not. I'm paying the same amount. But here's my question. And I've been using ChatGPT year and a half, 2 years. But why ChatGPT? There are others out there. So why have you focused on that?
No reason.
Okay.
It's the one I started using. It has been so consistently good.
Well, and as I said, I started on it too.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm still using. Recently bought the $20 a month thing.
Yeah.
But yet I'm to the point of, I'm hearing all about this and this and this. So am I going down the wrong road? And actually you've answered my question, confirmation that you're doing it. I'm probably okay. I'm not making a mistake. So you've answered my question.
I don't think you're making a mistake. I think different ones are good for different things. And as you like I said, I'm taking you to the edge of the rabbit hole. And as you jump off and descend, you'll learn more about what models are good for different things. I think a lot of my marketing colleagues like Claude. which is a different AI, and it does different things, but I'm not an expert on AI, so I can't tell you.
So, I have a question for you. Does ChatGPT cite its sources?
Yes. It definitely does. Let me show you a different prompt that might have a source in it. Oh, boy. Sorry. These are too personal. Should have deleted. This is the, yes, it does. I could show it to you, but I can't. I won't. But it does it. What will happen is when it cites a source, you'll see a little dialog box here and you just click it and then the sources show up over here. Oh, maybe there.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Maybe they're in
do you have to ask it to cite sources?
No, it just does
It
it.
does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just does it. And then I think they show up here.
Juliet also offered a concern that sometimes Chat GPT will make up its own sources, but she said maybe not in deep research. She said it has made up sources for her personally, and there have been some studies into it as well. So it would be interesting to see if that 4.5 model has that same issue or not.
I think all AIs have that issue. So again, like think of these as starting points, not endpoints. And I find that, sometimes it's just off and you need to go back and fix it.
Yeah.
So it's not perfect. Just like a smart 12-year-old wouldn't be perfect. Yeah, Myra's got, each AI has its strengths and weaknesses. Myra, do you want to come off mute and offer a perspective on different models?
Sure. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So, in putting together my business, I was just kind of wasn't sure. It's the first time I've actually dabbled into AI. And so once I did, it was like going down a rabbit hole. But I was encouraged by my advisors, like try different ones and kind of see what works for you. And so, for example, I did dabble into like Poe, and that was really good for like text and like coming up with certain prompts and like my business plan, that kind of thing. But when it came down to graphics, visuals, like Poe wasn't really doing it for me. So then I went on to Gemini, and I was very pleased with that one. And then I also dabbled a little bit of the Microsoft Copilot, and I wasn't too happy with that one. And so it just kind of depends like what you're looking for, not maybe having to stick to just one and dabbling in a few different ones and seeing, does this fit what I'm looking for? And so that's kind of been my best approach in getting what I need. And like you said, it's really just the starting point, and then the ending point is you, right? Kind of modifying it the way that you need it. Does it make sense? Does it resonate with me? Just to kind of add that personal touch to it.
I love it. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So any other comments? I'll do one last thing, one last trick. You just made me think, I like the idea of a business plan too. What would we include in a business plan, Lynn?
Target, I mean, yeah, come at it from a marketing standpoint, target market, competitor analysis, channels to reach your market.
It should understand.
Financials,
Yeah. If you just ask for a basic
Business
business plan,
plan,
it should
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Target market, competitors.
yeah. Sometimes. Yeah, financial model.
All right, let's see what it puts back. It's not bad. There's your SWOT analysis,
I wouldn't have thought of Target, Old Navy,
right?
yeah,
Because that's
TJ
like the
Maxx,
low
those
end of the
big
retail market. Yeah.
competitors. That's really interesting.
So another thing that I did that I thought was fun was I was sitting in my office and I saw this book that I really like. It's a product marketing kind of book, but it's positioning by Jack Trout and Al Rise. And so then I was like feeling saucy and I was like, well, what if, I mean, I wonder if I could just create my thrift shop messaging, but in the style of this book. And the reason I like to do this example is because pick your book. What do you like? You know, like, I mean, you know, you saw some person talking about marketing on Oprah Winfrey show, plug his stuff in there and see what comes out. So and so, you know, again, just on a whim, I didn't have to do anything really because it knows everything that's in this book and it knows everything about my business. And so it just connects the two very, very seamlessly. And like, you know, Jack talks about ladders. This is where I got the concept of what position does it occupy in your mind. So this is a more sophisticated, what I would describe as a more sophisticated marketing approach. And so I'm just kind of like want to open your mind to the fact that really you can treat this thing like a world-class marketing advisor for your small business. That's the kind of point I want you to leave with. Okay, it did take me an hour and a half. I'm surprised. I think because I knew I had more time and I just kind of laid out a little bit.
Great. Okay. Any last minute questions for Matt? Give everyone.
Well, I'm available as a consultant through the SBDC. So if you want to sign your business up to the SBDC and you have access to not only me, but Lynn's in there. And there's a whole bullpen of awesome advisors that are here to help you be successful with your small business. And we're super dedicated to doing it. So I'd really encourage you to dig in on the SBDC and leverage this incredible resource that we have available to you.
Awesome. Juliet chimed in with a question. She would like to know about how to automate more. Are you familiar with any kind of automation prompts for ChatGPT?
I don't have any prepared, but there's a really cool company that I did some consulting for called Tofu. It's more of a B2B play, but like, yes, the automation is a huge unlock because like, let's say you do account-based marketing, which means you market a product, like a B2B product for high-end luxury retailers, let's say. And you do their inventory management and they only change that once every 2 or 3 years and you have a account-based marketing strategy because you need to build a relationship with that buyer over the course of a decade. And so you want to keep that buyer warm and you want to create a marketing campaign that runs over the course of 3 years. And then you want to automate that. That is 100% an AI move. The other thing that you need to understand, this is kind of a more of a B2B answer, but everyone is knowable. So if you know who your target market is, you can find out what their email address is. Like you can find buyers and AI is awesome for that. You can find influencers. So this is that market expansion thing. Maybe in the small town that you're in, you already know everyone, but just know that everyone is knowable in the current world that we live in because everyone's identity is out on Front Street.